Hey everybody, welcome to BrickVault, and I just realized I shouldn't have worn a gray shirt to show you two different gray models today. I've got two different custom Lego minifigure designs from the builder LDD Model Maker. From Avatar, we've got the SA-2 Samson and the AMP suit. These two vehicles are heavily featured in the Avatar universe and make up the backbone of most forward engagements with the Na'vi on Pandora. The Aerospatiale SA-2 Samson is a highly versatile rotor wing aircraft. On paper, it says that the machine guns and Hornet missile pods are used for defensive purposes only, which is interesting, go figure. And this is an interesting note because the Avatar universe is set in our far future. You may be surprised or not surprised to know that the MK6 Amplified Mobility Platform, aka the AMP suit, is in fact the design from Mitsubishi. Many of the vehicles that we see in the second Avatar movie are specifically designed to perform specific functions on Pandora, while these two vehicles were actually just well-tested models that were used throughout humanity and simply brought to the alien planet with only minimal modifications. When I say a model is scaled correctly to minifigure scale, that means it's the right size for a fig, and it's all within the same range of minifigure scale that we have for our other models in the studio. These two models include some play or interactive features and are fairly easy to handle. Before I jump into any of the details though of these Lego builds, first let me just say that if you wanted to build either of these creations, you can get the instructions at our web store, BrickVault.toys. With an instructions purchase comes a PDF guide for the model, plus a digital parts list for ordering all your pieces online. Our builds are physically tested for durability. The instructions are also tested to make sure the building steps can be followed clearly, and the parts for the creation are chosen for availability. These ones in particular are actually pretty part accessible. If you buy instructions from us, you will be able to put these models together in real life, not always the case in the custom building world, and buying from us also directly supports the talented designers we work with, like LDD Model Maker. This is also not always the case online. This guy has put together a couple of great looking Imperial Coruscant police gunships as well. Remember, that is BrickVault.toys. Okay, we're gonna get into these models one by one now, and I wanna talk to Samson. Fly me to the moon like that chick Alice Cramden. What? There are a lot of details from the original universe that carry over well into the custom Lego model. In front, we have the offset targeting sensor. There are Hornet pods on either side of the cockpit with the printed controller tile as the rocket tip detailing. The SA-2 has a variety of mounted forward-facing blades to prevent entanglements with vines at lower flying altitudes, and the designer also included intakes for the rotor motors. There is a step mid-mounted on the skids, exhaust ports angled out from the back, and whatever these oval-looking bits are here. There are basically lots of details all over this model that make it very accurate to the original universe, and it just helps complete the overall look of the SA-2. And on top of that, there are some play or interactive features to show you as well. The targeting sensor can turn a little bit. The figs can sit down beside the mounted guns, and there is a bit of versatility to be had posing them here, sorta. I usually find it easier to take the gun out first and then snap the fig on and then reattach the whole thing. The big feature though, I think, for this model is the rotation of the two big propellers at the top. The barriers around the blades are all clips, so you don't generally want to grab it from here. You have to tweak them again if you get that circle out of alignment. What you want to do is grip at the base, and then you can make some pretty dramatic angle adjustments if you want. Now, as for the cockpit, you can seat one fig. The top windscreen pieces do flip up, but I like to pop off this other little wedge piece for better access. And then the final function here is attaching this model to the little display stand. It's really small, but pretty darn well balanced. This means you can spin it around no problem. It's very stable, but if you knock it side to side, well, you just don't want to do that. It could fall over. Now, none of these interactive features are as casual to manipulate as official Lego sets. That's why I don't really like to call them play features necessarily. You can't be too rough with it. It requires a little bit more of an adult touch, but they are not like annoying or delicate to handle either. The same kind of balance between structure, durability, and good looks can be applied to the second model here, the AMP suit. This is a robot. It's a mecha, but when I see any BrickVault brick-built model with posable arms and legs, I always just classify it, at least in my head, as a figure design. And this figure has a lot of versatility, maybe more than most figures built at a similar scale. The foot scoops at the bottom can ratchet at 2 different points, and then the knee has a lot of range of motion on its one axis. After that, the hip joints are pretty well exposed mixels, so there's plenty of space to move them around. The torso can swivel at the waist or right below the cockpit. And then the shoulders by far have the most fun and unique posability because they follow how the robot is supposed to articulate in the universe. And it's actually kind of closer to real human shoulders in a weird way. First, you have the vertical clip on the axis mounted to either side of the cockpit. That's almost like a mid-mount position. Then there is a horizontal clip on axis halfway up the shoulder build. And then at the top, you have a dual axis attachment point for the shoulder to the arm itself. And then beneath those 2 different points, you got a mixel on the elbow and then a mixel on the wrist. Movable figures. And that makes one heck of an expressive figure in terms of posability options. The cockpit also opens, so there's plenty of space for Quaritch or whoever to fit inside. And if you run out of ammo, you can always switch to the backup knife that is clipped onto the side of the cockpit. Now, the laws of physics do dictate that this mecha is always going to be a bit top heavy with the larger arms and the larger cockpit. So tweaks will be needed when you're balancing the model into different dynamic positions. This will always be the case with anything that looks cool while it's standing. You really do have to play around with it and balance it just right. But there are so many points of articulation on this model, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with the type of energy and the type of different dramatic poses you can put this thing in. I just gotta say there's some great details that make up the auto cannon that he's holding. I think that's a pretty decent build for a machine gun. I like that some of those little jet boosters have details for there on the back of the mech, and I already regret not getting parts for an extra couple of these guys because it would be pretty fun to have like a little squad of 3 or 4 of them walking around for a jungle diorama. At the end of the day, I think these 2 models are a pretty great example of what you get from a custom build as opposed to a play set. They have interactive features that aren't quite as easy as play features, but not too difficult to manipulate nonetheless. And also, I forgot to mention earlier, but this designer, LDD Model Maker, has 3 other avatar builds that he is working on currently, or that we are actually building out right now currently. So there will be more of these vehicles to expand out the avatar universe, which will be fun. And on that note, let me know what other types of creations you would like to see us put together in the future. If you enjoy our content, feel free to like, subscribe, comment, or share. And we'll see you next time at BrickVault.